You know, being deployed to a combat zone has a lot of got various interactions that occur to somebody that you don't really appreciate until it happens to you. And with me today are two gentlemen who wrote a book called On Two Fronts, Lance Taubold and Sergeant Adam Fenner. Now, it's unusual. I mean, typically, you know, you'll hear about, you know, somebody that's deployed and he has a wife and kids, and, you know, there's, you know, the reunion and the homecoming and all that gets a lot of attention. But you don't really hear about, you know, the average friendship and what happens to the individuals. The two of you wrote a book. You were deployed, Adam, now for the third time to Afghanistan. Lance, you were an entertainer here on the Strip. And what motivated you guys to write a book about this? And tell me a little bit of what is contained in the book.
Okay. Well, actually what motivated it was desperation from me. I wanted to keep in touch with him the whole time he was gone, because you never know what's going to happen, and I figured I would rather know than not to know what was happening. So and then I thought that I can't be the only person who feels like this, the only loved one left behind, be it husband, spouse, whatever, best friend. So I proposed to him the idea that what if we wrote about your entire experience from the time that you told me up until the time, fortunately, he returned. And yeah, so to write a book not knowing how it's going to end was a little bit daunting to do. But he went for the idea. So I said, well, then you need to start now. So he did. We started writing, and we sent the entire book back and forth through emails. So I was reading about events an hour or two after they happened, and then I'm commenting on them, and he would comment on my comments on it, my reactions and my overreactions very often. So that's the premise of it all.
Being in Afghanistan, I mean, you're pretty busy there, I would think. You have time to write long emails back and forth regularly?
The thing most people don't tell you when you're training to go overseas is how much time you spend staring at the wall.
Okay.
Boredom is one of the biggest killers. It's, I think, I don't remember where the quote comes from, but it's 3 minutes of excitement followed by 30 days of boredom. So there is a lot of downtime, but we're still on the clock. So we are busy, but we're also very bored at the same time. So that's where I found the time to write, and it was very good, therapeutic to just get something off my chest and get it out there. And then I'd email it to him, and he'd overreact.
I mean, when you were writing, Adam, did you have a tendency to whitewash, you know, some of the things you're writing about? I'm sure when you're in Afghanistan, you see some terrible things. Or how honest are you when you write about them?
I made it a point to not whitewash. There was a couple times when I censored myself, and then I decided, no, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go and write. So I made it a point to not whitewash or over-exaggerate, just because I wanted it to be honest. I'm not trying to make just this big, grandiose story. I just wanted it to be the normal, everyday soldier story, and that's what I tried to accomplish. And I couldn't do that if I was either whitewashing it or going over the top with the story.
Now, one of the unusual things you have in this book is you have one of these, what are these called? Not a barcode.
QR codes.
QR codes.
QR codes.
Okay, and what happened? How does this work?
What you do is you scan on it with the smartphone that you have, and it actually takes you to videos and photos of what you just read about in that chapter.
Right.
Adam had taken all of these videos while he was over there, and he actually figured a way that we could incorporate them into the book. So it was his idea.
Okay, so as I'm reading the book, you scan over it, and then what you're just talking about, there may be some photographs that you may have taken in Afghanistan, or you may have taken here in Las Vegas, and communicating back to Adam. What were you doing? Well, okay, now look, you guys have two extremes going here. I mean, he's in Afghanistan fighting, and you're at the Paris Hotel singing. You know, it sounds like a pretty easy life to me.
Yeah. It's the day-to-day, and this is something that I came to realize because I'd never known anyone who had gone off to war, let alone my best friend.
Right.
So I was always thinking about, what's he doing right now? What's happening to him? Here I am entertaining people and doing what I do, and he's over there doing God knows what. And then I realized he's always in danger every second. every second. And the realizations that came to me over the course of the year writing, it just changed my perception of the military and my entire way of thinking about people.
And what's the time difference between Las Vegas and Afghanistan?
It depends on time zones because they don't recognize time. They don't recognize daylight savings time, but I think if I remember right, it's 11 and a half hours, about.
11 and a half hours,
Right.
yeah, the half.
So, yeah, what is
Because
that
it's
about?
It's Afghanistan.
It's Afghanistan.
Yes.
It's the old crocodile and scorpion story,
Yeah.
right? It's the middle. Yeah. Why is it? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you know the story?
No.
Oh, okay. Scorpion's trying to get across the Red Sea, and says to an alligator, "Hey, let me swim on your back and you carry me across." And the alligator said, "Well, how do I know that you're not going to sting me and bite me?" And the scorpion said, "Why would I do that? You know, if I did that, I would die." So scorpion jumps on the back of the alligator. They go across the halfway through the lake. Scorpion stings the alligator. Alligator is dying and says, "You know, why did you do that?" And the scorpion says, "Well, it's the Middle East." Nothing makes sense.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to bring up this part of the story. I mean, you know, in addition to volunteering and being deployed, you know, 3 different times, you know, you're a hero in a different way because your dad was very ill, had a kidney problem, and you donated a kidney a few years back, huh?
I did. It was one of those. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think too much on it. He was dad, and that's kind of what I did.
Yeah.
I had one, and he needed one, so it was. Yeah, I didn't put too much thought into it, I guess.
Did you grow up? It seems to me like you have a great sense of responsibility. Did you grow up like that?
Yeah. It was just that my parents just always made sure that was something that they taught consequences, and if you're responsible for something, you take care of it. I didn't consider that to be an overly strange thing until I found a lot of people who didn't exhibit that same behavior.
Now, how did you guys meet?
Well, I was doing my show at the Paris, and he was doing security for it, so that was how we met. We would just talk afterwards, and we just struck up a friendship.
And you became best buds?
Yeah.
And then you joined the service, or you were already in the National Guard, or what happened?
I had done 4 years active duty Marine Corps, and then I was transitioning out. The Nevada National Guard benefits are some of the best in the country, so instead of moving back home to Wisconsin, I moved to Nevada. So I was going to school, and as soon as I left the Marine Corps, I walked right into the Nevada National Guard. So I've been in the National Guard since 2006.
What was one of the more difficult things that you wrote about in the book?
Probably the worst one, and I reread the chapter once to make a clean edit, and I've never touched it again, is we had one of our vehicles took an IED. I put 4 of my guys on a helicopter that day. All of them made it back. I saw them all within a week, and they kept on fighting, and they kept doing the mission, but that's probably the hardest one.
Do you feel almost trivial when he's writing about life and death situations, and you may be complaining about, you know, how many people are in the audience that night at your show?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. It's so humbling to realize that he's out there actually he's actually, you know, his life is in danger, you know, like I said, all the time, and I'm trying to do what I can do, and hopefully the book, and actually it's helped a lot of people, which was the intent, for people to just be able to relate and to sympathize and empathize with us.
Did you guys write before? I mean, was that something that came naturally to either of you?
I'd written a little for some magazines and written some short stories, so I had done that. And he had written a lot of essays and things in school, and he was also big into English. And I read a lot of his things and realized that he had some talent. And so when I proposed the idea to him, I did it knowing that he actually had talent as a writer. So I wasn't worried about him.
I'd never done fiction like that before. So when he's told me we should write a book together, I was like, look, man, I bang rocks together, and I don't really know. So I learned actually how to write fiction while writing this story. And it's not fiction, it's nonfiction, but it reads in a lot more of a fictional format because of the style that we wrote it in compared to a traditional biography or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and you're now getting a degree in accounting.
I am.
So no writing?
No, I'm still writing. I have a fantasy that I've got a manuscript completed. I've got the sequel that I'm about midway through. I just finished the manuscript for a romance, and then I'm working on a horror novel, which is just because my brain is scattered and so are my stories.
How about you, Lance? You still writing?
Yes, I am. I've had three books come out this past year, actually, and working on another project with author Heather Graham, and it'll be a series that's coming out this coming year. And so I'm, yes, very much into writing.
Now, when you guys send text messages, are they as long as some of these emails?
Well,
sometimes.
we would email back and forth, but we actually emailed the body of the manuscript back and forth. Okay. So I would send an email. My email would be like, my day was fine. Here's the updated manuscript. And in the manuscript is like a new chapter about how we did a 12-mile hike and helicopters were shooting at us and stuff like that. And so my emails were very short, and then my manuscript was in there.
But really fresh.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all current stuff as it's writing as it's happening. On two fronts, Sergeant Adam Fenner and Lance Taubold. Don't miss it. You can get it, I'm sure, at Amazon.com, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you, guys.
can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
We'll see you next week.